Orlando native Sergeant Robert Howard was working for Harry P. Lew when the war broke out. He joined the Marines in 1942 and put his talent for photography to work as a Marine Corps photographer. His work was also featured in Life magazine. His widow, Chris Howard, tells us of his service in the South Pacific.
When he got on the ship, he didn't know where he was going. He said there must have been 4,000 men on that ship, and they were headed out to lands unknown. And that's when they sent him to Guadalcanal. Most of his entire battles were in Guadalcanal area. Tanabogo, Gavutu, the Solomon Islands. I would say that the biggest problem was taking the pictures and being able to develop them on the island. They did find the Japanese darkroom, and he took it over, and it was more sophisticated than the things that he had set up for himself. In order to take those pictures and develop them and keep them safe, it was quite a chore. There's been a picture made, it's called Hell in the Pacific with Lee Marvin, and it shows this Marine having several pages in Life magazine. And those pictures in that film are Robert's pictures. And he had 6 pages in Life. He had a sense of humor that no matter what circumstance he was under, he always had a sense of humor. One Sunday, he went down to pick up his mail, and he worked for Harry P. Lew in Orlando before he went in the Marines, and Mr. Lew would send him a box of cigars every month. He went down to get his mail, and he had his cigars, and he put him a hammock up in the jungle and crawled up in the hammock with his cigars and his mail, and had settled down to enjoy the afternoon, and a big python fell out of the tree with a lizard in his mouth right on top of him. Broke the hammock and scattered his mail. He said it took him longer to gather himself than it did his mail. But he had presence of mind to get his camera out and take pictures of the snake. This picture is a picture of a Japanese car that they found, and this is a picture of Robert beside the car, and he said his commanding officer let him keep it 3 days before he had to give it up. The police boys were the natives of the island, and they were most valuable to the Marines. They called them the coast watchers as well. They would go around the coast and they would relay messages back to the Marines when the Japanese were coming. And they played such a vital part in the Marines' lives. There was one man named Booza, and he was so vital to the war, the Guadalcanal battle, that when he died, he was given an American military funeral. And there's a statue of him in the Solomon Islands commemorating his bravery during the war and how much he helped everyone.
The police boys also assisted Howard in getting his photographs developed by ferrying him in their canoes to the Navy ships.
They pulled them ashore and covered their little boats with tree branches to camouflage them from the planes flying over. And periodically, a battleship or a cruiser would come to the harbor and send up a flare, and one of the police boys would take Robert and his film to the ship, and he would go over to the ship and develop his pictures, and they would feed him, and he'd take a shower and change clothes, and they would doctor his wounds. They had so many insect bites, and of course with the monsoon season they had mosquitoes, unbelievable amount of mosquitoes to deal with. And after he would be there 2 or 3 days, then they'd send up another flare, and the police boys would come back and get him and take him back to the island. And some of those pictures are with the Naval Press. That's where a lot of the pictures that appear in the books today in the bookstores of Robert, those are the pictures that have been seen. The pictures that we have are the ones that haven't been seen. He spoke about the monsoon season. He said it rained for 19 days and 19 nights, had no shelter. And when they changed clothes, he said when he pulled out his shirt, the ammonia from his body would almost knock his head off. And when they changed clothes, they just changed from one wet uniform to another. That's the thing that's so admirable about him. He fought the war with a gun and a camera, and he had malaria. He lost 50 pounds while he was there. He got a letter in football, so he was well trained physically. And when he went over, he weighed 195 pounds. And when he came back, he weighed 145. And he said, it's bad enough to fight a battle without being hungry. And when you couple that with the other things, or more than couple it, with malaria and a camera and a gun, you wonder how they survived.